Welcome to my YouTube channel. Once upon a time, there lived a couple, Nadia and Mazar. They were the happiest couple in the village and the role models for aspiring couples. Truly, Nadia and Mazar were in love, and God blessed them with 2 male children and all the wealth they desired. But often, Mazar would jokingly say to his wife, "How I wish we had a female child. I'll take her to the beautiful places in the village, and she will get all she desires in this life." Nadia would laugh and accuse Mazar of being jealous of her relationship with her boys, but within her, she prayed to give birth to a female child because she knew her husband would be an excellent father to her, just as he was to their male children. 7 months passed, and Nadia became very ill. The herbalist was called to check on her. "Congratulations! You're pregnant. Your 3rd child is on the way," he said to the couple. Mazar rejoiced at the news. "Finally, God has sent me a female child," he rejoiced, jumping around. Nadia looked at him and said, "My love, you say this every time. Perhaps God is sending me another boy to add to my team." But Mazar disagreed. He believed it was the girl he had been praying about, so he decided to act in faith. Mazar began to ask around for the types of meals his wife could eat to improve her chances of birthing a female child. When he found out, he went to the market himself and bought beans, fish, almonds, and many other things. He would personally cook them without the help of the maids because he wanted to be sure it was cooked properly. When he was not in the kitchen cooking, he was at the tailor's shop placing orders for matching outfits for himself and his daughter. Miais told everyone who cared to listen that he would soon be the father of a baby girl, and the villagers excitedly waited for Nadia to give birth. Some of them joined him in faith and began calling him Papa. On the day of labor, the midwives helped Nadia to give birth to her baby. Just like Mazar prayed for, his darling wife gave birth to a baby girl. The midwife ran to Mazar in excitement and revealed the baby's gender. Mazar thanked God with a short dance and then rushed to see his wife and child. But when he set his eyes on the child, his smile disappeared. He stood there for a few seconds, looking at the child in shock. Then, in a short while, he walked away silently from the house. Mazar became a shadow of himself after his encounter with the baby. Several attempts were made to make him see his wife and child again, but he refused. 2 days passed, and his attitude only became worse. He completely avoids discussions that concerned about their baby girl. Whenever the baby cried, he would ignore her cries and pretend he was not hearing a sound. He also refused to touch the baby for any reason. Sometimes Nadia would catch him staring at the baby from a distance with what resembled fear in his eyes. She also realized her husband began to have frequent nightmares, but as long as Mazar refused to speak, she could not understand what was happening. Weeks passed, and Mazar refused to speak about the child's naming ceremony. He banned his wife from naming her the name he had pre-planned before her birth. "Do not call her Amara. That name is for my baby girl," he would say whenever he heard Nadia calling the child by that name. And every time he said that, Nadia would cry. She feared her husband was going mad. One day, An old friend visited Mazar, and while they sat outside talking, Nadia overheard her husband telling his friend that he had just 2 male children. She was heartbroken, but she finally concluded that Mazar thought she had cheated on him. So, immediately she began to pack her belongings. She was going to take her children and leave Mazar for good. It broke her heart that a man she loved deeply would think she cheated on him. Just as she packed her belongings, Mazar walked in. "What happened? Are we going somewhere?" he asked gently, but Nadia did not utter a word. Mazar tried to ask several times, but she still would not answer. So he joined her to pack his belongings too. "Where are you going without me?" he asked her again and again as he gathered his clothes. Nadia stopped, looked at her husband, and broke down in tears. "You think I cheated on you? Can you not see this child has your nose?" she said to Mazar. "God forbid, she does not have my nose," he answered quickly. Nadia was shocked by her husband's response. She continued to pack her clothes in anger. Mazar realized his mistake and apologized to his wife. As if to make matters worse, their baby, placed on the bed, began to cry. As usual, Mazar looked away, but this time his wife refused to pick the baby up. "Carry your child. If you say I did not cheat on you, it means this girl is your child, so carry your child," Nadia said to him. But he shook his head and sat far away from the baby. Nadia looked at him in anger and said, "You know what? I will leave you today, and I will leave this child behind, so maybe that way you will be forced to take care of her." But Mazar ignored her threats. Rather, he sat undisturbed in the corner of the room. The baby kept crying, but Nadia was determined not to carry her. However, her maternal instincts would not allow her to watch her baby cry for a long time, so she angrily carried the baby from the bed, walked towards her husband, and dropped Amara on his laps. "Was that so hard? You have never carried this baby since she was born," she screamed at the top of her voice. But as she shouted, she realized how pale her husband looked, and for a second, she thought he was lifeless. Mazar also began to shiver uncontrollably. So, to prevent the baby from falling, Nadia quickly grabbed her from his lap. "My husband, are you okay? What is the problem?" she asked him, but Mazar refused to speak. Instead, he began to cry like a child. Nadia was very worried, so she took Amara to her mother in another room, who was around to help take care of the baby. When she returned to the room, Mazar was still weeping uncontrollably. Even though she was confused, she sat beside her husband and held him, allowing him to find comfort in her arms. Finally, Mazar was able to pull himself together. "My love, please tell me what the problem is so I can help you," she urged him. Mazar tried to change the topic because he thought the truth could mean losing his wife, but Nadia insisted on finding out. It's my mother," Mazar said slowly. "She's not dead." "Well, I don't know if she is, but the last time I saw her, the king demanded she was locked up in the dungeon. He finally revealed to her." Nadia was very disappointed. She had always believed Mazar was an orphan who lost his parents in the war. Mazar saw the disappointment on her face and knelt, begging her for forgiveness. My mother killed my father, Nadia. She beat him up until he passed away. Mazar began to cry again, remembering how evil his mother had been to him and his father. He squirmed in pain as he remembered how his mother forced him to step on hot coals because he asked her to stop fighting his father. Several times, she would starve Mazar's father or lock him out of the house just because he could not provide for his family. Mazar's father lost all his money to a swindle after a bad transaction, and his wife never forgave him for that, especially because she married him for his wealth. When she became the breadwinner of their home, she turned into a monster. Mazar watched as his father's confidence shrank. He always heard him weeping in the backyard after his frequent quarrels with his wife. One day, he and his father returned from the farm very hungry. So, Mazar went to the kitchen and found a plate of food covered, so he took it to his father so they could share the meal. "My son, I know you are hungry, but let's wait for your mother. This food might not belong to us," his father said to him. But Mazar could not wait. "Papa, we have not had a proper meal since yesterday evening. I'm going to faint if I do not eat this meal," he answered and immediately began to eat the food, offering some to his father, who still refused to have a taste. After a while, Mazar went to the kitchen to get some water. While he was away, he left the plate of food on his father's lap. Unfortunately, his mother, who was just returning from the market, saw her plate of food with her husband, and immediately she flared up. "Do you know how I earned the money to cook this meal? Who permitted you to eat this food?" she shouted angrily. Mazar ran out and told her he was the one eating the food, but it only made her more upset. "You are a weak man. Why are you trying to turn my son into a liar?" she responded. Instantly, she took the plate, poured the remaining food on her husband, and began hitting him. As if that was not enough, she picked a huge stone and hit Mazar's father's head. Instantly, he slumped and died. Everything felt like a film that day. Mazar watched as a passer-by alerted other villagers of what he had witnessed, and in a matter of minutes, his mother was dragged out of the house to the palace. He watched as many people testified to his mother's cruelty to his father. Finally, the king arose, demanding that his mother be kept in prison while he thought of a suitable sentence. As she was dragged away by the guards, her eyes met Mazar's, and he did not see remorse on her face. Tears rolled down Mazar's cheeks. He wanted nothing more to do with her, so while the crowd shouted in happiness, he quietly snuck away and walked until he found himself in another village, where he began his life afresh. When Nadia heard Mazar's story, she was hurt. She cried with him, sharing in his pain, but within her, she still could not understand why he was so cruel to their baby. "My husband, what did that baby do?" Nadia asked him. "Everything. It's her eyes, her nose, her ears. Nadia, it's her entire face. She even has the same birthmark on her left arm. How is it possible that she looks exactly like my mother?" Mazar answered. He told her that he had successfully buried that part of his life forever, but seeing their baby brought back many memories. He had so many questions. What if my daughter turns out to be like my mother? What am I going to do, Nadia? I must see our daughter's face my entire life, and every day the resemblance becomes stronger. My mother took my father away from me, and now she has taken my child from me, the female child I prayed for. Everything finally made sense to Nadia, but what was she going to do now? This was harder than she thought. As they slept at night, she prayed to God silently in her heart for a solution to regain her once happy family. Just as she shut her eyes to sleep, the answer came: forgiveness. Yes, her husband had to forgive his mother. She prayed again, asking God for his help, and finally, she slept off. The next day, she asked Mazar, "Do you think you are ready to forgive your mother?" Her husband was silent for a while, then he nodded in approval. "I thought I already did when I buried her in my past, but I was wrong. I cannot keep blaming my daughter for something she knows nothing about." The following days were a struggle, but Mazar attempted to build a relationship with his child. He would sit beside Nadia as she fed Amara, making funny faces at her to cheer her up. He even began to call her Amara instead of child or baby. The happiness in their home slowly returned. Nadia never forced the child on him, but she let him make baby steps towards getting close to their child. On the days when he was hesitant, she did not force it, and on other days when he wanted to spend the whole day with a child, she let him. Regardless of how he felt, she supported him by praying and reminding him of how much of a great father and wonderful husband he a whole year was past, and Mazar and his daughter became inseparable with God's help and effort from himself and his wife. He was able to disregard his past and shower love on his Amara. He carried her everywhere in the village just as he said he would, wearing the matching outfits he made for them. One day, he said to his wife, "I think I should go and check on my mother. Maybe she's still alive." Nadia was overjoyed. Now she was convinced her husband had completely forgiven his mother. "My husband, I will stand by you. Whatever you, Nadia, always know you can count on my support," she said, rejoicing. So, the following week, he took to the village where he was born. When they got to his old house, he saw a man and asked him about his mother. After deep thoughts, the man told him of a woman in the village called Anwawu who fit his description. "The woman I speak of has endured so much hardship, but she has refused to pass away," the man said to them. Mazar and Nadia journeyed to meet the woman the man spoke of who lived in an isolated part of the village, and indeed, it was his mother. As he stood face to face with her, he realized he did not feel hate anymore but pity. His mother recognized him and ran towards him. She cried and begged, asking for his forgiveness. Nadia looked at her, and all she could see was Amara. She always thought her husband exaggerated a bit about their daughter's similarity to his mother, but now she was convinced her daughter was the young version of Mazar's mother. They all sat down for a conversation, and Anwawu told them how she begged God for an opportunity to see her son once more before she passed away. The villagers nicknamed me Anwawu because no matter the hardship I faced in prison and the humiliation I've endured from people, I haven't died in sadness. My son, I was waiting to see you again, and God has answered me. Nadia and Mazar told her about their children and how their daughter resembled her. Over the next couple of weeks, they spent time traveling to visit her often, and sometimes Anwu would visit them too, to look after her grandkids. On her birthday, they all gathered to celebrate her, and that same night Anwu passed away, but in her heart, she was fulfilled that God had shown her mercy. Thank you for watching this story today. Please comment on what you learned, and remember to like and share with your loved ones. Till next time. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye.